It definitely doesn't favour him today. 7 climbs spread over 185 kilometres and starting pretty much straight away. So this is a big day for the mountains competition as well as the race overall, and we can expect to see the current owner of the polka dot jersey, Omar Fraile, trying to get into the day's break, along with anyone who wants to take it off him. As always, the best or worst is saved to last. The Alto del Cordal and della Coboteria are usually the preamble to tackling the fearsome Angliru, but in keeping with the rest of the summit finishes on the 80th anniversary Vuelta, this one is new. The Ermita de Alba is a proper final test though, 6.8 kilometres at an average gradient of 1 in 10, but with sections steeper than 1 in 5.
On the climb now, the last summit finish of the Vuelta. 2 lone leaders, Frank Schleck and Rodolfo Torres from Team Colombia. They've been talking to each other, working out how they're going to maintain this advantage, because they know that in 11 minutes' time, the Astana-led pack working for the red jersey there will come flying up this mountain and it will start to explode behind them. They have 11 minutes to defend, the 2 leaders.
It's likely they're going to make it to the finish. I mean, you'd think so normally. The way Frank Schleck seemed very controlled and was holding off the Astana train up the penultimate climb. But, I mean, you have to change your perception. Normally 6.8 Ks is pretty close to the finish, but it's not when it's this hard, this steep. It's actually going to take close to 25 minutes. They're going to go that slowly. So it's not the usual 6.8 Ks were that close. They know they have to do it on time, not on distance.
And these are, don't forget, 2 breakaway riders who are pure climbers. These aren't puncheurs or rouleurs or just opportunists. They have identified this stage and got in the break because, well, in fact, almost all of the riders in the breakaway today were pure climbers, if you like. And Frank Schleck and Rodolfo Torres have emerged as the best of the best from that selection. 10.53 the gap, 6.4 remaining for the leaders. Meanwhile, this group of favourites continues to descend. And Tom Dumoulin's just moved to the back of that line.
No, this is something we've seen a few times. I think often he seems to slip back slightly in the descent. It's almost like he gets a little bit nervous or is just so overly concerned about not taking risks that he really, other guys come by him. Because I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen him do this in the race, where he comes over the top near the front, and then when we get the next shots further down, he's slipped back down the line out. So I think he might just be so overly concerned about kind of an accident happening that he really is playing a cautious game.
Astana lead Fabio Aru under 15 kilometres, 11 minutes up the road. Frank Schleck grits his teeth, his shades now on his helmet. Rodolfo Torres, the much smaller man, just slips onto his wheel, and the 2 of them are glued together in this effort, for the time being at least. When they know that they're clear and when they know that they can start to contest the stage win between them, I'm sure that will all break down, but for now it's in their interest just to set as comfortable a pace as they can with more than 6 kilometres of this climb remaining. These 2 Astana riders will lead the red jersey onto the foot of the final summit finish of this year's Vuelta. Joaquim Rodriguez will be looking to take advantage of it. So too will, if he's got anything left, Nairo Quintana, Alejandro Valverde, Rafa Majka and Tom Dumoulin. Those are the names to watch. How it will unfold, nobody quite knows. But they will test each other out for sure in the early phase. As their Tinkoff Saxo move to the front, I think that's Jasper Hansen just setting a really high pace with Majka.
Yeah, it's interesting that Majka's ordered him to do that. So basically, Majka must be feeling good, and he's wanting to put some stress on Astana immediately to maybe try and break them. He knows those Astana riders have been riding for quite a long time. Rather than have Aru dictate the pace, he's decided to dictate the pace.
Well, he's opened up a bit of a gap. Has he gone off a little? Well, he's
no, but that's
forcing.
That's the smart thing to do with Astana. They just let him go. Why do they stay on his wheel? This means Aru can keep control of the pace. So now Aru's going to drop back because he knows that Majka must feel strong. So he's going to monitor Majka. But the safe thing to do, instead of following Hansen and let him blow you up, is to let the wheel go, and then Astana are back in control again.
Well, I think that Tinkoff Saxo rider that we thought was Jasper Hansen, it might well be Jay McCarthy, actually, not Pavel Polyansky either, who they're normal mountain domestique. So instead, that rider appears to be Jay McCarthy doing the work for Tinkoff Saxo. Aru dropping behind Rafa Majka. Let's not forget, Astana still identify Rafa Majka as a man who can seriously threaten for the overall on the Vuelta. He can time trial Rafa Majka, possibly better, almost certainly better than Fabio Aru, arguably better than Joaquim Rodriguez, but not as well on form as Tom Dumoulin. That's his speciality, and the white jersey, well, he's slipping to the back a little bit there, but all eyes will be on him.
Yeah, and you see Aru he's riding this goes to how in control he is, I think. He's dropping back, watching, keeping all his rivals are in front of him now. All the guys he was worried about attacking him can't come from behind. He's dropped back, he's got two teammates up there who can control the race and shut things down if needs be, but now he's got all his main targets in front of him. Rodriguez, Maika, even Moreno. So yeah, even the Movistar riders. So he's got all the targets there now.
Still able to eat as well, Fabio Aru, just taking on a gel, preparing for this final effort, this big showdown. 3.4 kilometers remain on the race for Torres and for Schleck, and pretty soon we'll be in the kind of territory where we can probably say these two are going to contest the stage win. They'll be getting that information. They'll know that within the next kilometre or so they're clear, and they'll both try and figure out between them who's going to be the strongest man on the day.
They'll both be waiting for that 600 metres from where they are. I mean, they're almost 3 kilometres ahead of this group, so they've almost got the stage wrapped up in that sense. But I don't think neither of them really know what to expect. They won't have done this climb before, I doubt, and that section 20%, they're just going to. It's not going to be a big attack. They're just going to push each other and see who rides away from the other one, really.
Jay McCarthy continues to work for Maika, setting as furious a pace as he can. And this, I believe here, yeah, you can see the grade, it goes up crazily now. Frank Schleck taking things up. This is where the road kicks up through this village, and it hits something approaching and exceeding 20%. Perhaps not quite at this point, but Schleck is aware of what's coming. It's moved to the front. Torres trying to respond, and able for now to respond. So these two continuing to match each other, pedal stroke for pedal stroke.
Torres is looking strong, because we saw Frank Schleck just do that acceleration into that switchback where it was very steep, and Torres didn't seem to be under too much stress. So that's going to be interesting, and Frank Schleck will have read that. Again, that will have been a little sort of jab to see if Torres, see how he's feeling, and he'll have noticed, and he'll know that it's close.
Well, the steepest part of this climb is still to come, and so too you sense as the big showdown. Well, Frank Schleck sees the road ramping up very steeply in front of him. This is the steepest section of the climb, and he's decided this is where I need to go if I'm going to get rid of Torres. And for the time being, Rodolfo Torres, who's stuck admirably with a resurgent Frank Schleck, has no possibility of responding to this effortless-looking acceleration. He looks incredibly smooth again. It's like the Frank Schleck of old, rolling back the years, but the road is not going to give him any respite. It kicks up, and it kicks up. It's brutally steep at part.
So Diego Ross has taken over, so now Hans is put on. So now I'm not sure whether Aru will have asked him to take control and start to pick it up a bit, because the advantage of Aru being back here, see the red jersey there near the back, is that he can see how everybody's feeling. He can see that everyone's still in control, so he can dictate a lot more with a lot more ease kind of what's going on. He can see who's in difficulty, who's not, and he's very lucky to have two domestiques that are so strong.
And it's noticeable that the red jersey is paying close attention to the white jersey today, and Dumoulin. He'll have to attack him. Aru simply has to attack Dom Dumoulin and take big chunks of time out of him today. That's the one thing we know in Aru's mind must happen. Frank Schleck finding a little bit of respite here, just from those brutal gradients now, and he has a photographer for company just recording this moment when we saw Frank Schleck rediscovering the kind of form, perhaps, that won in 2 stages of the Tour de France and allowed him to finish 4th in the Tour in 2009. But many years have passed since we saw Frank Schleck capable of that kind of riding.
That's an interesting tactic that Aru's playing. I mean, I wonder if he's just monitoring Dumoulin now. So Dumoulin, because Dumoulin, if he does like yesterday, he just rides completely his own race. It's very difficult for Aru to see when he's weak and when to kind of really attack him. If he lets everyone else do that, he can then sit on Dumoulin and really know when he's going deep and know when to hit him.
Well, there's 2.4 kilometres remaining for Frank Schleck, but I guess the bigger picture, well, there's the answer. 5 kilometres now remaining for the GC race. 5 kilometres of uphill to a summit in which the pure climbers in this race have to do something about the man in the white jersey. Surely they cannot think that the 1 minute and 25 seconds Aru and Rodriguez, or 1:24 to Rodriguez have over him is enough to defend in a time trial. They need to attack him and take big amounts of time out of him. Frank Schleck standing up though, and will start to believe he'll be getting the time checks. He'll know that he still has 10 minutes advantage, and only, I say only, it's going to take him a long time to get up them, but only 2.3 kilometers remaining. So he has dropped Rodolfo Torres. Torres won't be coming back to him, I very much doubt. And he still looks fully in control here, Frank Schleck.
No, I mean, Torres is totally out of sight now, which is what Frank Schleck needs to know, and I'm sure he'll be finding out from the team car, from the radio, that Torres is broken. Because you've got to be careful on a climb this. We saw it happen last year with Ryder Hesjedal on a very steep climb as well. I think it was the Swiss rider who was in front, and he was almost out of sight, Ryder, but he just kind of kept it monitored and course from the final 200 meters. Because of it being so steep, you have to ride at your own pace.
One of the breakaway riders, Garbu Gramai, the Ethiopian road race champion, found it all a bit too much on the previous climb, just getting swept up now.
It's interesting. You see, Dumoulin's moved right back up to the front now. So Dumoulin's, this is how strong he is. He's moved on to 4th position. So I mean, that's a clear indication of the fact he's much better than he has been the last couple of days.
Diego Rosa, Mikel Landa head the race now, where the fireworks have yet to explode. Under 4 kilometers to go, and they're entering the really nasty part of the climb. They'll all have seen it in the profile in their road books this morning, and they'll all have thought that's where it's going to go off. As Joaquin Rodriguez there in the green jersey just takes a drink, preparing his thoughts, trying to figure out how his legs feel, what he can do about this pace. Astana still with 2 riders. I mean, there's almost no domestiques left. There's certainly no domestiques. Polyansky is gone for Rafa Maika. I'm not sure if Danny Moreno... Yeah, Moreno is still there for Rodriguez. Nieves on his own. Quintana and Valverde, I think, are on their own. As further up the road, with 1.4 remaining, Frank Schleck finds a little bit of flatter road, just to get into a time trial mode and just push on. He'll be aware, perhaps, that the television cameras just glimpse Torres behind him, and perhaps he dares to have a look there as the road goes up and round a corner. Won't have seen Torres there, and he'll gain encouragement from that, and encouragement from these fans as well.
And he's on a remarkable ride so far, because he's only lost 1.5 minutes since on the penultimate climb, and on this climb he's only lost about 30 seconds so far. So he is holding his pace, but it does go to show that they really haven't turned on the gas yet behind here. So we're going to wait for them to go here. They're having a discussion. They'll be figuring out. And I think that maybe what's going to happen is Aru and everyone else is waiting. As Diego Rosa, or is that Landa's just dropped back? No, it's Rosa that's dropped back. Landa's now taking control. So now we really are seeing it's the end game. Landa's going to have to go and probably lead it hard into that very steep section. We'll probably see it split up exactly where Frank Schleck left Torres.
Well, Schleck's riding himself back into the big time here. This is a tremendous statement from a great rider who people had almost started to forget about. But Frank Schleck declaring to the cycling world, I'm back.
And this is, you can see Tom Dumoulin is doing a great ride. And believe me, just to sit at the front in a climb like this is incredibly hard. The fact he moved up during the climb goes to show how much stronger he is today than he perhaps has been the other days. And it's a psychological game. He's showing everybody, contrary to yesterday, that he's here. You're going to have to drop me. He's not going to be out of sight this time. He's going to be in their mind the whole time.
Well, it's an extraordinary reversal. Such a counterintuitive vuelta from Tom Dumoulin, a man who, when we see him descend, you think he should be attacking on the descent. You think that should be his natural environment, but sometimes he doesn't look too comfortable. And you see him on climbs like this where you think he has no right to be there physiologically. And now, as so many times before, he's been mixing it with the big boys. Tom Dumoulin, then, this is aggressive, defensive riding of the very highest order, but he still has the steepest parts of the climb to come. One kilometre to go for Frank Schleck. As we look down the road to see where Torres is, he wasn't in sight there, but further down the road, battle still raging in the GC group, or about to explode. Dumoulin, though, seems to be snuffing out the opposition, giving them no hope at the moment.
And this is exactly where Frank Schleck left Torres. So we know this is about the steepest part and the hardest section of the climb, and that all these guys will know this. They'll have seen on TV, they'll have done all their recon, be it from actual being there. Aru's sitting in the back, so if you like, we've got a full role reversal from yesterday, where it was Dumoulin on the back and Aru on the front. So I'm beginning to question whether it's a tactical move. Maybe Landa's now just trying to set a high pace so nobody does attack. If Aru's feeling bad, that's what he'll do. Rather than let people kind of fire off, Landa's job now will be to just keep a pace that is awkward enough for people not to attack and strong enough to then scare people into not attacking.
Well, it's fascinating. If the race stops now, you'd almost not hesitate to say Dumoulin wins, because right now, unless somebody can do something about it, this could not be a better ride for Tom Dumoulin. He has everyone where he wants him, including the red jersey of Fabio Aru, gapped by some 10 places in this line of climbers. If that's a watching brief from Fabio Aru to check out his rivals, it's a risky place to be if they go, isn't it?
I'd say it's a very risky place, especially on a climb this steep, because you don't know when people are just going to drop anchor and explode, and then you don't want that to happen in front of you on a climb this steep, so it's then very hard to come by them. But yeah, I mean, this is a very risky move. He's not where he needs to be as race leader. Although he's got Landa, that's fantastic control.
Oh, this race organisers on this Vuelta are sadists. Right when Schleck thinks he has it won, he has gradients like that to deal with. I'm sure, though, he will be able to solo alone across the line, but not without huge discomfort within the final kilometre. And that's worth bearing in mind when you see this race get within the final few hundred metres, because it kicks up again brutally steeply. Dumoulin, though, on the wheel of Mikel Landa. And Landa, temporarily, perhaps accidentally, seems to be putting his protected leader in some discomfort by the pace he's setting at the back. Alejandro Valverde is finding it hard to live with the pace as well.
No, he has to keep it like that, because if he lets it lull, if he pauses, then that's when it will stop, pause and launch again, and that's exactly what Aru doesn't want if he's feeling bad. He wants it to be a constant pace the whole way, because then that puts people off. He doesn't want anyone to get a little respite and then think they're strong enough to attack. He needs Landa to have basically one of the best rides of his life today to try and protect him.
Earpiece in. Over this din, it'll be hard for Frank Schleck to hear, but he will know that this is a big race win for him. He's waited a long time to demonstrate to his doubters, perhaps even to demonstrate to himself, to demonstrate to the cycling world that the rider we saw win 2 stages in 2009 as it kicks up again with a horrible, horrible gradient there on the Tour de France. Finished 4th overall. On the 2010, the following year in the Vuelta, he finished 5th overall and knows what it's like to finish 2nd on a stage of the Vuelta, as he did on stage 16 back in 2010 to Mikel Nieve. Now, though, he gets the feeling of just what it means to win a high mountain stage, the final opportunity, if you like, for a pure climber to stamp his class and authority on the race and remind the world of the rider we saw some years ago, a smooth, almost effortless looking climb, but believe me, that took some doing from Frank Schleck. He took it upon himself to break up the 10 riders who got up the road with an amazing assault on the previous climb, and now he's ridden out a big advantage over a furious GC race behind him. One finger in the air and a big declaration. Is Frank Schleck back, I wonder? Mikel Landa, Tom Dumoulin, an unchanging face in the GC race, except at the back where the damage is starting to be done, and Alejandro Valverde, well, that is his Vuelta over. Any ambition he had of threatening the podium even now is vanishing on this climb.
And this has been a recurring thing for Valverde the last few days. We've seen him be one of the first of the big contenders to be dropped out of there, but Dumoulin will have heard that. Look at Landa, look how strong he is. Now Landa's just keeping that pace, and Dumoulin's maybe just letting the wheel slightly go to see who's going to come by, because again, he's in a slightly precarious position, being right to the front. He can't see how all the other guys are doing behind. And on a climb like this, you can see these are the best climbers in the world, and they're making this look like a very hard climb.
Mikel Nieve decides that he will move up the line, and he brings with him Rafa Majka. And for the first time in a while, first time in a few kilometres, Tom Dumoulin is content, having made his big statement up there on the wheel of Landa, just to drop back into 4th or 5th wheel.
And now we've basically got the top 5 in GC riding next to each other, and they'll all be scared of this final section, because if they crack there, they could lose 20-30 seconds in the final 500 metres.
Well, absolutely, as Rodolfo Torres has just discovered, crossing the line in 2nd place. That last kilometre is unpleasant, but a great 2nd place for him. Terrific ride. 2 kilometres to go for Mikel Nieve, for Landa, for the green jersey, Joaquim Rodriguez, and slightly detached, the red leader's jersey of Fabio Aru.
And look, this is exactly what happens when Landa comes off. They all start looking at each other. And that's when Chavez has now been dropped.
Chavez has been dropped, so he's gone back. We just saw Alejandro Valverde dropping off that group, and the next, if you like, big GC man to go, if we can call Chavez that, well, he is dropping out of contention as well.
So this is why Nieve, one of the reasons Nieve will be pushing it now, because he sees the places on GC that are in front of him being dropped out. With Chavez gone, if he keeps the pace high, then he can move back up a place as well.
That's Cyril Lemoine, one of the 10 riders who went up the road. He'll look to his left now and see here are the big names on the Vuelta, and they are about to find out which of them is the strongest climber and what they can possibly do in terms of getting any sort of a time advantage over the big Dutchman in the white jersey. At the moment, it looks like absolutely nothing.
This is playing perfectly into Tom Dumoulin's hands. And there goes Vivo as well. These are some of the best climbers getting fired out the back. We've had two tiny guys in Chavez and Vivo who'd normally you'd expect to excel on this sort of terrain, and yet you've got the big Dumoulin still there looking in control.
Landa brings Nieve with him. Maika, that order now been maintained for the last few hundred meters. Rodriguez, Quintana looking fresh again in his topsy-turvy kind of one day on, one day off Vuelta that he's having. But it's another bad day for Valverde. No shame in that. He rode a very strong Tour de France and he's given everything on this Vuelta.
Yeah, and he's not given up. He's had a bad few days, but he never sits up and takes it easy. He's going to fight the whole way up to the top. And here we have Landa. You can see how strong Landa is controlling. Aru is so fortunate to have him there because they know the tactic that Rodriguez is going to do. Look at this, got Dumoulin and Aru riding next to it side by side, almost watching each other. And Dumoulin's now getting close to the point where he knows he's not going to lose much time. Whereas Aru's got Rodriguez, and they know that Rodriguez, he's got the form of yesterday. This is the perfect finish for him, where he will, within those final 500 meters, but just punch away.
Well, Fabio Aru has two key riders to concentrate on. He needs to concentrate on the man on his wheel, Tom Dumoulin, if he's thinking about the overall win. If he's thinking about the red jersey at the end of the day, the man he really has to watch is the man who sits 1 second behind him, Joaquim Rodriguez.
Now Landa's done these last 2 or 3 Ks, and he's still looking good, so his job is going to be try and just keep that pace high. He doesn't want it to lull him for Joaquim Rodriguez to then just jump away, because that's the moment it pauses or they start doing that look around again. That's when Joaquim Rodriguez will go. But he will know from the team staff that have gone ahead. He'll have got feedback. They've called back to the team director who radioed to him to tell him that with 500 meters, 400 meters goes. Moreno now goes. So now it's just Joaquim Rodriguez who's there. And Dumoulin's just starting to get distance, but he knows he's close to finish. Now he can't. He knows it's just going to get harder and harder. He now just has to sit it like he did yesterday, find his pace and economize, not get overexcited and not panic and go into the red.
I would suggest this is Tom Dumoulin's best day at the office, bar none, on the Vuelta so far. Over the last 2 days of mountain finishes, he's lost 43 seconds to Fabio Aru and 1 minute 11 seconds in total to Joaquim Rodriguez. But he is delivering a masterclass in resilience and bulletproof self-belief now as he closes the gap, or tries to, again to Fabio Aru. Aru, though, moving alongside Louis Meintjes at the back of that group of riders, and Dumoulin is getting across to him once again.
I mean, the road flattens out a little bit there, and Dumoulin will see that. He'll just get back on the wheel there just for this section, try and have a tiny bit of respite, although I think that's kind of a bit of a... I can't see him having respite here. But
just not the way it's going to work, is it?
But look, he's got a little rest here, and look, no one's going to do anything. Landa's going to keep riding. You know, Landa's going to pull off at some point unless he's on some super day where he can just roll him up. And then also, there's 4 seconds on the line for third position, so it's everything to play for even, let's say, Joaquim Rodriguez. Even if he gets to the line at the same time as Aru, he just has to beat him on the line.
And then we'll see a reversal between the two men who lead this race, Fabio Aru and Joaquim Rodriguez in the green jersey. Landa, though, what an effort this is.
I mean, in an ideal situation, you just get Landa to drive all the way to the line and cross third and take the time notification.
Neutralise the bonus seconds.
If he was at which, look, it's the sort of thing Landa could do, but I doubt. Look, let's see Rodriguez. He'll just sit there. Rodriguez's kind of MO is to just punch it in those final meters. And here we go. This is where it all begins now.
Under 1 kilometre then, Mikel Landa still on the front with Nieve on his wheel, an unchanging picture pretty much. Rafa Maika then and Joaquim Rodriguez. Tom Dumoulin just struggling to maintain contact a little bit with Fabio Aru.
But you can see Landa looking back, making sure Aru's still in control. We see Tom Dumoulin's getting off the back, getting dropped, but riding his own race again now, like he did yesterday. He knows he's within the last kilometre. There's not going to be a massive amount of time lost by him. He's just going to control it and not go in the red, because he knows how steep this is going to get. And if he blows up, he could hemorrhage time. But now the race is between Joaquim Rodriguez and Fabio Aru, and that's what Landa's job now is to control it and try and keep the pace high enough to prevent Joaquim Rodriguez from attacking.
Well, Aru then with his twin targets, well, the one man in the green jersey, that's his immediate concern right now, because this race is doing damage to Tom Dumoulin. They'll know that. And Rodriguez then just steps on his pedals a bit here on the steeper slopes. You can see Dumoulin is still maintaining contact with that group, but Rodriguez is forcing the pace at the front.
And it's the trademark remove from Rodriguez. We know he almost always goes in the last kilometre, but it's almost got a slow motion attack. It's so steep here. But you can see the damage. Aru's in trouble slightly. He's getting dropped off the back. But you can see Lander's looking behind, looking over his shoulder, looking for his leader. So he's there and he's going to, and I think he's still strong enough to help him, and he is. Look, he keeps looking over his shoulder while Joaquim Rodriguez, although it looks slow, is actually, that's going to be so incredibly hard.
Well, Lander's doing an extraordinary job for Aru. They're bringing him back. Rodriguez just riding his own race now, seeing what he can do. He's committed to this. There's no looking over his shoulder for the time being. He's simply got to race up these horrible little kicks to the finish line with 500 metres to go. And Tom Dumoulin's a master display of resilience and bulletproof self-belief. He's rounding this corner, just limiting his losses, and I think he's still somewhere in contact.
I think he is. I think he's okay. He's in control. And look at Lander, still working for Aru. They know all the time bonus is gone, so now what they've got to do, here goes Aru. Now he's going to do his final effort. He's used up Lander. He knows it's all down to him. He's got to close that gap and finish on Joaquim Rodriguez's wheel in order to protect his jersey.
Dumoulin, the time trialist, in a race against the clock. These two men in a simple head-to-head battle for who's going to lead the Vuelta at the end of the day. 1 second separated Joaquim Rodriguez and Fabio Aru. And now it's all down to who is going to cross the line with what advantage here. They're not racing for third place. The remains of the breakaway have swept up the bonus seconds. So this is simply a battle between Rodriguez and Aru. Rodriguez needs to take a second out of Aru, but the way Aru was sprinting up that little kick, I wonder if he's coming back to him.
I mean, it's going to be so close. We know Aru's got, it's very similar to Joaquim Rodriguez, and a massively explosive effort. He can do that, but it's like he's going against the other guy who's the best in the world at that, and he's used up everything and may have gone a little bit too late, but I think he has timed it to perfection. Look at him coming. I mean, it's so close. The only thing he's thinking about is that back wheel of finishing within 1 second of Joaquim Rodriguez.
And that's all he needs to, I say all he needs to do, but the way Rodriguez is rushing at this finish line, the Spanish flags, they're waving for him, the cheers are in his ears, and he's going to take a little bit of time. Is it enough? There's more than a second's gap there, I would have thought. We'll have to get that confirmed. But I think Joaquim Rodriguez will be leading the Vuelta at the end of the day, as Rafa Majka leads over Nairo Quintana, Mikel Nieve and Mikel Landa, looking as if he's only done half a day's work.
And Mike is
bringing up another good ride for him, the top 10. And here comes Dumoulin then. So the big time gaps don't look like they really emerged. At something like, what, 20, 25 seconds. Haven't had the clock running there, but that's another great day at the office there for Tom Dumoulin.
That is a remarkable ride, and I think just by rough calculations that keeps him within the magic 2 minutes from the red jersey, which everyone's saying that's what we expect. Was Daniel Moreno comes across the line now, but I mean that's incredible. I don't think anybody expected that at the beginning of today, that he would manage to keep himself within 2 minutes.
Pure self-belief and pure bravery from Tom Dumoulin, but what a battle up front between Rodriguez and Aru. Frank Schleck, almost a forgotten man of world cycling, reminding us of what we loved about him, a stage win on a Grand Tour in the high mountains.
And here is confirmation of it. 1:10 he gained over Torres once the Colombian had cracked. The remains of the break filled the first 8 places. Then came the top 2 riders in the race. Their positions reversed on the line, and the 2 seconds gap between them enough to ensure that the same would happen in the standings overall. Then came the third place man, Rafa Majka, another 10 seconds down, with Nairo Quintana alongside him. Nieve, Landa and Meintjes were right behind them. And after a short gap that probably felt agonisingly long to him, Tom Dumoulin conceding 27 seconds to Rodriguez, 25 to Aru. Well, he was demoralised a few days ago, having dropped out of contention for a high place overall, but his team director persuaded him to refocus on a stage win, and Frank Schleck now has Trek's third of the race.
Vuelta has been so hard. It's been the last 10 days. It's been so fast. The first hour, 46, 47, 45 average, and today it was a lot of character in the head. If you really want to go out there, and there's a few guys who dare to go out there, and that has been the recompense today, and that has been the award today, being hard, a character, and just going out and suffer again, and that's why I got the win.
Schleck is also up to second in the King of the Mountains competition, having picked up all his 30 points today, but he's still 52 behind Omar Fraile, who's put in the repeated hard shifts in daily breaks, won the first 5 climbs today, and looks to have that jersey pretty much won. No such clarity in the race overall, I'm happy to say. The lead is still the same, only the order of the names has been changed. Joaquim Rodriguez now has the red jersey and the single second advantage over Fabio Aru. Rafał Majka holds on to third place. In fact, his lead over Tom Dumoulin is up from a second to 16 seconds. But that's bad news rather than good for the pole. In fact, even at 1:51, Dumoulin's deficit to Rodriguez is well within his ability to regain on the flat in Wednesday's time trial. In terms of the race overall, the man who finished 16th was the stage winner today.
Tom, it was an extraordinary ride. Can you see victory in this Vuelta at the end of the tunnel?
It will be very difficult, but yeah, it's looking good at the moment with the time trial upcoming, and it could happen that I take the red jersey there, but then it's still 3 very difficult days where these strong teams will definitely make a very hard race every day.
And you're sort of doing it alone, aren't you? There isn't a great deal Giant Alpecin can do to help, at least on the steepest slopes.
Well, I have Lawson Craddock, who's always quite a long time with me, and definitely 2 days ago he was only 4 positions behind me, so he's definitely very good. But it's true, we are not a team like Astana or Movistar, who has 3 guys here at the bottom of the climb, and but that was also not the goal before this Vuelta, to take the best GC team to this Vuelta, because I mean I couldn't believe that this was possible before this Vuelta.
How did you feel on those really steep slopes, knowing you were still in that group of the favourites?
Pretty good, as you could see.
So Joaquim Rodriguez takes the red jersey into the rest day, knowing that the stage on the other side of it means he's effectively the caretaker of it rather than the long-term owner. All the focus between now and Wednesday will be on how much time he and the other climbers will lose to Tom Dumoulin over 38 kilometres against the clock. He knows it's likely to be more than 1:51.
Menos de 2 minutos de ventaja sobre el holandés. ¿Cómo ves esa crono?
Pues muy complicada, la verdad, muy complicada, porque aparte que se la ha visto muy bien, se la ha visto muy suelto, mucho mejor que no ayer, y seguramente que después del día de descanso que recuperará, verá el recorrido, estará súper concentrado para hacer una super crono, pues posiblemente sea el gran favorito para ganar esta Vuelta a España, ¿no? Para mí, pues eso, tengo que luchar, tengo que hacer una grandísima crono para intentar estar en el podium, y ojalá me salga, o sea, para ganar yo la Vuelta tiene que fallar él y me tiene que salir a mí un día, vamos, espectacular.